What? Oh man, I wish I knew that before. Oh well, you live, you learn. Haven't you felt this way? In this video, I'd like to share with you my aha moments in my Atmos music mixing journey to maybe, just maybe, offer a shortcut and save you some trouble. Let's dive in. I am Pat, and if you're new here, I mix immersive audio Dolby Atmos for labels and artists big and small. This past year, besides new music, I have had the honor and privilege to bring into Atmos some iconic recordings by iconic artists, which I will share, by the way, once they've been released. So, I've had the immense pleasure to have access to the original multitracks for these recordings, and the first point in today's video comes out of my experience with these. Of course, I cannot not mention the research that goes into how that release was put together. Really getting under the skin of the record before bringing it into the immersive audio future. Just incredible stuff. So, what do all these have in common? Equally great pre-production and production. Starting with the scouting for a great song, matched by the record label A&R with the perfect artist, then the perfect producer, then arranged wonderfully by amazing arrangers, played in the studio by amazing players, engineered and mixed by excellent engineers in excellent sounding spaces. Quality every step of the way, which of course does not necessarily mean perfection, right? Definitely some mistakes in there, but things that give music character and identity. But everything serving the song. I was mixing a song yesterday that had an unbelievable horn and string section recorded for the whole song. All of them bounced to 2 mono tracks, by the way, since this was a 16-track recording. It was beautifully arranged and played stuff that sounded just amazing. Well, in that particular song, about a 5-minute song, both tracks were used during the outro for maybe 4 to 8 bars, including the fade out, because that's what the song needed. Just for fun, I was adding certain parts to other sections just to listen to how it would sound, and I was like, man, this sounded killer here. But then when I went back to it, I was like, nope. Sounds great, but does not actually serve a purpose here, because the 2 guitars are doing that part and taking the load of the arrangement at that particular time spot. They were right. Hardest part on this is to reinterpret the recording while bringing it into the future, yet at the same time preserving its legacy and respecting the artist's original intent. In new music, that is not the case. But you know what both catalog and new releases, at least before Atmos, have in common? They both try to fit the audio into 2 speakers, our beloved stereo. When I first started mixing in Atmos, I had that stereo mindset, which really set me back weeks, so not to say months. Forget stereo. Atmos and immersive audio in general is a whole new ballgame. Let's look at an example. You've been provided with a set of pre-mixed stems. There is a stereo piano stem. It most likely has the low end and part of the high end cut, if it is a standard pop rock tune at least, to make that fit into the stereo mix with all the other stuff. Sounds great. But now you place it in your Atmos mix, and now it sounds thin and anemic. So you need to pump it up. And not only that, you need to make it sound like the mastered stereo version of the song, since many producers will export the stems with the stereo bus processing on them. That's just one of the reasons why I prefer mixing from the multitrack. And I'll put a card up here somewhere for a video I did on the 3 types of Atmos mixes. Another major thing is the use of compression and bus compression in particular. Well, it is perfect for 90% of stereo recordings. For immersive audio and Atmos, not so much. Spent so much time trying to make this work, but to no avail. I do not use multi-channel side-chained and what have you compression on my mixes. As I said, I have extensively experimented with it and I don't like it. Atmos does not need it, in my humble opinion. Let stuff breathe and exist in its own space. And for stereo fold-downs, don't worry. The binaural algorithms will do their thing and it will be just fine. Having spent so much time with older recordings this past year, I realized one thing. Balancing is an art. Levels and panning is the name of the game. Automation is the name of the game. Extensive use of it on new materials and all hands on console to ride the faders during the olden days. Now I spend a lot of time massaging the levels and panning before I do anything else. Major reason why I'll mention later in the video. Once you have the balancing right, compression is less needed, at least for compression's sake, for dynamic control. You can use it for flavor for sure, but again, here's how this whole thing is intermingled and twisted and tied up. On older stuff, a lot of the dynamics have been baked in the arrangement, the performance, the recording. Immersive audio and Atmos as a platform, like anything really, has its quirks. Found some of these out the hard way. Understanding these will save you tons of valuable time. Beds versus objects. Atmos is an object-based system. Individual sounds placed around a 3D sound field. To be totally honest, the bed part was most likely included in the technology for compatibility with older approaches and workflows like 5.1. My workflow includes an extended object bed, basically objects but in fixed locations, and the bed for ambiances and LFE, though I do not use that much. But for new music, I am slowly switching to what I call a free object workflow, where everything is an individual object. Why? Think about it this way. In a bed or an object bed, you have sound coming out of a particular location, which depending on the room you're in, comes out of a particular speaker. So, for example, if I have 2 acoustic guitars, let's say, placed just outside the left-right speakers in a 714 room, this would be a little bit off phantom center of the left and left surround and right surround. In a 9.1.4 room, it would come out of the wide speakers. So what if there are more speakers in the room? Remember, you have to do some forward thinking here. What if the new car tech is 20 speakers all around you? Or heck, the whole inside of the car is many little speakers. Something like the Sphere in Las Vegas, but inside your car. What if you could do that in your listening room? In your brand new immersive audio helmet? Or another device we haven't yet even dreamed of. Catching my drift? Of course, I'm exaggerating, right? But future-proofing is so important, and the object-only approach makes total sense to me, but I digress. Another quirk has to do with mindset. Especially in the very early days of Atmos, we are still at the beginning, folks. If I had a dime for every engineer that complained, "Oh, my mix was changed." Well, live with it. That's how tech is. And recorded music is intertwined with tech. The mix has always been changing and it will always be changing so long as there are different music distribution methods and formats and different levels and qualities of playback systems. The cassette, vinyl, CDs, radio, digital and streaming and all its variations, and whatever else. I remember the Eye of the Tiger by Survivor sounded nothing alike on my little cute Sanyo boombox and my friend's Nakamichi hi-fi system. Kind of Blue sounded nothing alike on my fancy smanchy turntable and the MP3 version my friend downloaded off of LimeWire. So, let's get over it and add the Atmos. Both the multi-channel and binaural fold-downs, yes, including the different versions like Apple's Spatial Audio, and do the best mix we can that would work on all of those. It's a compromise, folks, but recorded music has always been that way. Come to think of it, what isn't a compromise in life? Okay, Philosopher Pat, out. Remember I mentioned I would tell you the major reason I try doing very little processing and only when needed? Well, here it is. I want to do no harm. My mantra these days is let the music breathe. By the time you add your EQ, compressor, de-esser, resonance suppressor, saturator, beautifier, low-fier, descalper, then another EQ. You know what happened to your poor waveform? Let the music breathe. Do no harm. Then check out these must-know facts about Dolby Atmos for music creators right over here.